Black people piss me off, especially African Americans. Now, you see, there's a sense of over entitlement and expectations that the world owes something to these people, right? And I say these people because it's now more of a mindset thing than an actual skin color, right?
Guys, you need to go and watch that whole video. I thought it was a joke. I kid you not. I started watching that video and I said it was an SNL skit. I thought it was a comedian cracking a joke and like doing a skit. The longer I watched it, the more I realized that, oh my God, this is real. It's actually a real video. Now, I think he's Nigerian because I had a feeling. I looked at this guy and said, the rhetoric coming out of his mouth, the kinds of things he's saying feel very Nigerian, like a Nigerian who has things he's made it, he's enjoyed a little bit, gone to a nice school, gone to England or America or something, and he thinks he's somebody. That's what it felt like, because the breed of colonialism that we had in Nigeria and in other parts of Africa, British colonialism specifically, it did something to our brains. So that when guys manage to leave and go to another country, they think that they're somebody, especially better than the black people that they find over there. That's usually what happens. He may not be Nigerian, but he feels like one. What's so funny about these guys is that when they make these comments and do these little videos and they think that they're a little bit trendy, they never say anything about the ridiculous policies and laws that were put into place.
White people, it shocks me how many things that you complain about today that you don't know were put in place by your grandparents to stop black people. See, once laws were passed to where black people could own homes, they could buy and all of that shit, that's when they put in the credit system. So it was like, okay, back then all you needed was cash. All you needed, you wanted to rent an apartment? I have the money for it. There you go. And then once they said black people could do it, white people had to create a system where where it's like, okay, you have the money, but what else do you have that we can use to deny you this place? And then credit system was invented. College loans, USA, it was free until black people. Healthcare, the reason you can't afford shit, your grandparents don't want black people to have it. Every single thing you can complain about as a white person in America, your grandparents put in those laws to stop us, and now it's fucking you. Welcome to America.
The fact that when they got themselves up on their feet, their towns were bombed, like Tulsa, Rosewood, Lake Lanier, wiped these guys out. They never let these people rise, ever. 13th Amendment, you don't want to talk about that, of course not, because that's modern day slavery. Redlining.
Let's talk about the history of redlining and housing discrimination in America. When tracing the origins of housing discrimination in America, we can point a finger at FDR and the New Deal. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected President of the United States during a time when the Great Depression was completely ravaging America. With this happening, FDR wanted to institute a program that would give immediate housing aid and assistance to Americans. But the Federal Housing Administration and these programs would make it so that mortgage loans in predominantly black areas would be more risky to give out. These policies ensured that mortgage loans would more often than not go to white home buyers, and they also sought to ensure that predominantly white areas would stay white. You'd see mortgage lenders and developers doing things to make sure that black people could not buy houses in predominantly white and affluent neighborhoods. Present-day America, you'll see highways built through predominantly black and historically black neighborhoods. Highways that were built 50 to 60 years ago to bring down the value of black neighborhoods.
They used the 1956 Highway Act to drive an expressway through every black community in America and destroyed it. You're going to find the old black communities in America? Go find the expressway.
Mortgage lenders and developers would draw red lines around and through black neighborhoods to deem them more hazardous and to let people know where the predominant black neighborhoods were.
But the suburbs came out of the fact that whites wanted to get away from blacks and blacks wanted to socially integrate. And so the whites, we abandoned these black folk and moved to the suburbs and take all of the what with us? Resources. Mm-hmm. We'll take all the industries, the factories, the automobile dealerships, the banks, the culture, the money, the wealth, the power, and relocate it in the suburbs.
What we found with data, I love data. We had Experian pull every zip code in America by credit score.
Wow.
I just did I had a hunch. A hunch was now more than correct. Like there's like a 1% margin of error, what I'm about to tell you. We literally have been looking for love in all the wrong places. Data is unimpeachable, and it says this. All of our problems, crime, murder, mayhem, drugs, depression, poverty, are in 500 credit score neighborhoods.
And we'll strip these urban areas. So these black folk, they come in, they can't run an urban city. You can't run Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Philadelphia. You can't run it because you won't be in the resources available to you.
And in that neighborhood, by the way, black and brown urban or white poor, here's what you see. Check casher, target marketing, next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lending store, next to a pawn shop, next to a liquor store, but I didn't say it already.
Yeah.
You guys starting to get a visual?
And so when the white folks say, you all were smart enough to run a city, that's y'all just let the city run down. No, they ran it down for you. They use a policy called burnt fields, scorched earth policy. Saying we leave here, we're taking everything out.
And the only resources that they'll have is the drugs that we put here.
That's right.
The guns that we put here.
That's right.
Yeah, so they'll have to resort to crime and violence to survive.
All of the things that have been done to make sure that you cannot rise. Now, psychological damage, because you can't just say that we don't have to deal with that weight. They do. That does something to you. So you can't compare us as Africans to guys who do not know where their village is. I know where my village is. You know where your village is.
Right now, we do not have not one single black community in America. All you got are black neighborhoods. A neighborhood is where you eat and sleep. A hotel is a neighborhood. And in some of these neighborhoods, it's gotten so bad now, they're not even neighborhoods anymore. Crime has gotten so high, they ran the neighbor out. All you got left is a hood. That's why they call it the hood. Nothing left in there. They don't have any communities. A community must have three elements. You must have a wholly independent economic structure that can produce jobs, services, goods, products, and resources for your own people. Two, the second thing you must have in there, you must have a code of conduct. Saying this is how we're going to behave. Here's how we're going to love and support each other. Appreciate them, care about them, protect them. And lastly, you must have politicians elected to office who will represent you first and foremost. You don't put black folk in public office that will look out for everybody else before they look out for you. If you don't have those three things, you don't have a community.
You're never going to make a video like this about Ukraine. You're never going to make a video like this about Israel. You're never going to make a video like this about Japan. You're never going to make a video like this about anybody else that the United States sends billions to who they didn't even have anything to do with the oppression that they had. But black Americans can't get reparations. Black Americans think that they're owed something. Hell yes, they're owed. They're owed a lot.
A lot of folks have heard this phrase, right? 40 acres and a mule. As you say, a lot of people thought, okay, this just never happened. And your reporting is called 40 Acres and a Lie. What's the truth behind this program? What do people not know?
What people don't know is that it wasn't just a promise that was broken. People were received land titles. We found more than 1,250 people who got land titles, men and women. They picked out their plots of land, mostly on the plantations where they were enslaved. Actually, not everyone got 40 acres, which is another misconception. It was up to 40 acres. And then people were living there, they were planting their crops, they were selling them in Savannah. Some of them formed governments, they elected a sheriff. They were living their lives, and they lived there for like up to a year and a half before they were kicked off.
How did they get kicked off the land that the government gave them?
Basically, because Lincoln was assassinated. I mean, they had promised this land, they gave land titles, the government said, this is yours, you deserve it, you're gonna keep it, but Congress needed to make those titles permanent. They had a majority in Congress who were willing to do it, but Andrew Johnson, he was the vice president, he was a white supremacist. He sided with the planters who wanted their land back, and he vetoed every effort to make those land titles permanent.
You did a little more research to talk about the value of the land. This is an important part of your reporting here. 1 4-acre lot that you identified in Jacksonville, Florida, based on a sale last year, that it would, today, 40 acres would be worth $2.5 million there. It's not just the land that was lost here in your reporting. Tell me about what else you found.
Yeah, well, just that generational wealth that wasn't passed on. You know, this 40 acres land was all the coast. It's like expensive coastal real estate. We found gated communities, golf courses, and restaurants, incredibly valuable lands. This is wealth that was not passed on, and that's kind of what we're trying to show is the impact This is not a history lesson only, it's the impact on people who are alive today.
Must say, I must have a turf to operate on.
Land, real estate.
Land, that's right. Since they would not give you the 40 acres, you have no turf. You had a community, they stripped that.
They built the country. They are owed everything plus interest. What kind of nonsense is that? And who the hell are you to say what they should and shouldn't get? Go back to Nigeria or wherever you came from. Who are you to come to America and say that I'm a Nigerian and I do not approve that message?
We got to come together as a team. Why? Because Dr. Anderson told us that racism is a team sport. You either play as a team or you lose by default. If you got enough sense to go out and play as a team on a basketball court or a football court, why don't you play as a team as a race? So we have to start playing as a team.
And we don't claim him. I do not know where he's from, whether it's from another African country, but I cannot believe that that video is real. I'm shocked. Please, if he's Nigerian, we disavow that dude.